Heart bleeds, adrenaline. The fire I breathe is where I live. Incredible, inimitable. Running like you never. This is Let Us Interrupt You here on Sunday, March 5th, 2023. I am Joseph Olivo. It's Let Me Interrupt You Now, probably going to be for a while. Mike, I mentioned the other day, won't be on the show now going forward. I am looking for a replacement. However, I'm not kicking him off permanently here right now. He'll be, if he wants to stick around, he'll be part of the show. I really haven't told him that he's been kicked off the show. I don't even know he's been watching any podcasts lately. I know most of you have, and to those who've watched, I do appreciate that. This is episode 118, 118 episodes of this, and this might be the new scheduled trend now going forward. Doing it Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday, although I'm doing this today on a Sunday. The reason I'm doing this today instead was because I got home late last night from a college hockey game last night that I wasn't even planning on going to. Got roped into it, and it was actually pretty fun going to Providence College University, the actual university. Inside Schneider Arena is what they call it for the Providence Friars hockey team. They lost last night to 7th-ranked Boston University Terriers 2-0. PC yesterday lost at home at the Dunk. I'm still going to call it the Dunk. To Seton Hall 82-58. There were a lot of upsets in college basketball yesterday. We're going to get into that a little bit later on. I want to get into UFC first because there was a 285 show last night. I actually completely forgot about giving you a preview for that Friday. Also getting some Jalen Ramsey news, NFL news. Willie McGinnis getting 8 years in prison for his crime, for his 2 felonies that he had, 2 assaults that he had in the restaurant that he was at previous over a year ago. Getting 8 years in prison for this. I'm not sure why he's getting 8 years in prison for this. I didn't hear any deaths about this fight that took place, and the fact that he's getting 8 years out of it is a little extreme. I was surprised when I first heard maybe like a couple of years, maybe. But 8 years for this, I just think is a little extreme for that punishment. Personally, I didn't read the whole article on it really. I thought because I saw the felony charges, I'm thinking in my head like they weren't dead. They weren't beat up to the point where they're blind. And it just, I didn't really quite get it. This actually brings up my point right now about Alvin Kamara right now pleading not guilty, which I mentioned on Friday's episode. Him pleading not guilty. And I'll get into more about this right now, whether or not he might serve some prison time. Because if Willie McGinnis got 8 years in prison for this, for a 2-on-1 assault with somebody to join in on this whole thing and him not knowing any better, he should get at least 5 or 6. I'll get more into detail of that, why I believe that at this point. But I will say this, UFC 285 was on last night. I'll give you the results for that right now for the lightweight championship. And actually, I'll start with the middleweight fight that happened last night. Bull Nicol is now 4-0. He got the win last night in round 1, and that lasted 2 minutes and 54 seconds in the first round. Beat Jamie Pickett. That was a pretty quick fight. Martez Garment won the decision in the third in three out of the 5 rounds they had, defeating Jalen Turner last night. He improves to 22-2. I think he has a 1-no decision, I believe that is right now in his career. At this point, that's what it says here on Google. I'm just reading the results right now from Google. Shavik Ramov continues his undefeated streak, beat Jovov Neal last night in round 3 of 5 in that welterweight division. I think Ramov, retained his champ. I believe this was for the championship last night, if I'm not mistaken, in this whole thing. Alex Garrazzo beat Valentina Shevchenko. I believe she has won the flyweight women's championship. And John Bone Jones, John Jones, the wife beater, won his fight in the first round, and it only took about not even 2 minutes to become the new heavyweight champion, beat Cyril Gane, who got his second loss in his UFC career. Jones has got his, I believe now he's now 28-1. I don't think these records have officially changed yet. I think some of them have, some of them haven't. This is why I had to bring this up here, because the fact that this guy assaulted his wife, beat her up to the point of, of not looking the same, just abusing this woman to the point of, like, sheer fear in her face. Him serving some, I believe he served jail time, if I'm not mistaken, for that. And shout out to my EB buddy, Michael Tendick, for actually reminding me of that, because it was posted on my Facebook this morning of this thing, and he commented on the post saying, not going to support this because he was a wife beater and all that, a woman abuser, and and stuff like this. And this is a guy who's now once again the face of UFC. You got UFC's under enough bad firepower. Like, I've been having people telling me that Dana White's been under investigation, which, I mean, I know that he is. I don't really cover UFC as much, which is why I haven't really given my thought about Dana White being under investigation for fixing fights and stuff like that. Which, honestly, if that was the case at this point, if all these fights, or most of these fights, were actually fixed, then every sport would be under investigation. Every commissioner would be under investigation for fixing games. Every owner, every manager, whatever the case may be, would be under investigation. But there never is one. Jones getting the win last night. This was probably the weakest submission hold I've ever seen in my life, the weakest guillotine I've ever seen in a UFC fight. It got to a point where I said to myself, Gane just getting the win. He was probably given more might in this point, but I think that, now that I watched that fight this morning, which I was able to watch the highlights of that fight, it looked fixed. It looked fixed from the minute the first round had started. And my first thought was that this guy had better gotten a better payday to drop the world heavyweight title to John Jones. This felt WWE-esque in that moment. I'm looking at most of these fights that I'm watching now on highlights, and I'm saying to myself, all these fights delivered on the main card. The preliminary card, Cody Garbrandt beat Trevor Jones. That was an entertaining fight. That was actually probably one of the better ones of the two in a bantamweight fight. Amanda Ribas and Valerie Arjo, I thought, was pretty good. That Ribas got the win there. Cody Garbrandt and Julio Arce, by the way, was supposed to be the original fight. That got canceled. Not sure why that got canceled, but it did. And Mark Andrade Barra knocked out Juan Marquez. That might have been the fight of the night. By leaps, not by leaps and bounds, by a little bit of an edge there. That should have been on the main card. Excuse me. Yeah, but he got the knockout win. I think I already read. Did I mention Duplessis beating Derek Burn? No, I didn't. Okay, so that's also another knockout. That was also in 2 rounds. But if you talk about the on the preliminary card, and here's the early prelims, which this was a 5-hour show, by the way, so I was never going to get it. Ian Gary continues undefeated streak. He got a knockout in 3 rounds against Keenan Song. Cameron Salmon is also 8-0. He's also undefeated. Won by majority decision over Mana Martinez. Tabitha Rica, who was 8-1, she got the win now officially. She forced a submission on Jessica Penin. Low-key Razmadov beating Esteban Ribos, and Freed Brashet defeating Damon Blackshear last night. This honestly, if you had to look at all the preliminary cards and all this stuff right now, they had much better fights on here, which is kind of sad to say. This right here, as far as a UFC fight goes, and I've seen some bad UFC fights. I've seen some bad UFC defeats. I've seen horrible UFC fighting. The fact that John Jones in this submission, you want to talk about people telling me that most of these sports are scripted. This is probably the most scripted main event for a UFC card I've ever seen. This was terrible. I mean, as far as you talk about a guy tapping out to literally the weakest guillotine hold of all time, the worst chokehold. I mean, unless Jones just bopped him in the face and stuff like that, there was hardly any punches thrown in that first round. It was just basically takedowns and stuff like that from Jones. But I mean, I saw the end of this, and I thought to myself, that was only in the first round. That was a heavyweight title fight, and that's how it comes to a close. I mean, at this point, and we've seen Dana White over years take over, have control of Ultimate Fighting Championship. The fact that he's had disappointing main events before like this, and this right here was the biggest advertising of a return, because you got a guy who served some time, who's been suspended, who's been off the UFC card now for a while due to his personal problems at home, and he comes in last night really in a way to just stick it to the new people right now, bury people on their way out, because I can't take this Cyril Gane guy even seriously now at this point. I can't take John Jones seriously. I can't take the UFC. This is why I don't really cover UFC as much, because now at this point, the fights that they hype up now end up being really disappointing in so many ways. They do. I mean, but this was by far the most pathetic UFC main event I've ever seen, and I've seen some pretty bad UFC fights, and that right there last night, the way that one finished, and the amount of controversy this fight got through Twitter, through Facebook, through Instagram, through TikTok, through Bleacher Report. I mean, this may as well be a meme at this point with the way that card turned out last night. And the preliminary cards were better than the main card itself. That should have been part of the main card last night, and that heavyweight title match should have been on the earlier card. If not that, then taken off the card completely. But he's back as now as the face of UFC. Let's think about this for a minute. Chuck Liddell was the face of UFC a long time ago. Then it was Brock Lesnar. Then it was John Jones. Tito Ortiz was actually a face at one point as well in that division, but John Jones took over that right after that. And now this guy is back at it again. Back from, all is forgiven. Like, this guy wasn't a white beater. Let's and let's make this the most basic win and the easiest win in John Jones's UFC career. That's what this was last night. This was the easiest win of his career. And if this wasn't the easiest win of his career, I don't know what is. But that main card last night, I mean, the women's match was more competitive than most of the fights that were on the main card itself, which is kind of sad, actually, for guys who are experienced in the ring. I mean, I kind of look at the guys right now who are fighting it now on these cards, and it's just like the one person that I think could take the title from John Bone Jones, and I'm just basing it off on these factors right here, because I think there's not really a lot of heavyweight fights that happen here, which, I mean, it's kind of sad, really, because there's not a lot of heavyweight fights, which I know why they do it, because they try to put most of it on the main card itself. But the only person I can see taking that title now at this point is that if somehow this happens, like somebody like a Bobby Lashley, like that's in WWE right now, can go to UFC and take the title from John Jones, someone who's respected, someone who's been in the military, who served our country in the Marine Corps, someone who bleeds red, white, and blue, and really isn't a wife beater. I mean, you look at these guys now they're in the UFC now, they would not even have a shot to beat the guys from the older generation that were in the UFC. Wouldn't even come close. And I'm just seeing most of the fights last night on the main card, and I'm just thinking in my head, like the main event itself, like Cyril Gane. If he can't beat John Jones, he can't beat Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, Rampage Jackson, Brock Lesnar. I can go on and on about the old fighters here. Hell, even Dana White, if Dana White wanted to get in the ring. Dana White at this point, who might as well be the guy Daniel Cormier is another person. Daniel Cormier, you could argue right now, could beat John Jones, and I'm pretty sure he's beaten him before. Well, actually, no, he hasn't. Never mind. I'm sorry. I just realized John Jones. But I'm saying in a legitimate fight that's outside the UFC, that would be a realistic thing. I apologize here. I'm getting more college basketball updates. I will get into college basketball highlights in just a moment here. But I got to say about this fight main card last night, big disappointment so far for UFC in 2023. That's all I got to say. It's the biggest disappointment that I've seen in quite some time with the UFC. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Going into NFL news, Willie McGinnis right after this, I ended this podcast. I was actually going to go on about this last night, but I did not get a chance to record. As a matter of fact, I didn't even get home last night until midnight last night. So I figured there was no really shot of me had to be out for 15 hours of recording this. So, but Willie McGinnis last night was arrested. Actually wasn't arrested. He was had been ruled by a judge that he has to serve 8 years in prison. Was on trial. He was charged with 2 felonies for assault, aggravated physical assault on these 2 gentlemen in a restaurant. And Willie McGinnis is now going to serve 8 years in prison. Now, I bring this up in comparison to Alvin Kamara's situation because Kamara will be on trial. He's already pleaded not guilty. He's going to be arraigned on April 19th. Okay, so that will be about a month and 14 days from now. So go figure, right? That's the story. My thought on this has not changed at all whatsoever. I think Alvin Kamara might get some time. I think his playing days are over. I mean, this is just like the Michael Vick situation, only I think this guy is going to serve at least 5 years in prison. Is Alvin Kamara going to get back and play in the NFL again? With this new age at NFL, I have no idea. I have no idea. If they can't get, I mean, they let Michael Vick play football after arranging a dogfight. But they wouldn't let Colin Kaepernick get back in the NFL because he was kneeling down for the national anthem and make a mockery of the NFL. I mean, at this point, you pleaded not guilty for an assault that you were caught on camera for doing that. To me, you're going to serve some jail time. At least 3 to 5 years. I'd say 3 to 5 years. McGinnis, I thought, got railroad with the whole thing of getting 8 years in prison. I think he should get at least 3. 3 years in prison is nothing here. 8 years, though, kind of extreme. I wouldn't even be surprised if Willie McGinnis, I mean, I knew he grew up in a rough part of, I want to say he grew up, did he grow up out west? I want to say he was either Midwest or somewhere down south. But, I mean, I'm thinking in my head, like, this guy, he was gotten into trouble in the past, and now it's come back to bite him. The fact, and I'm thinking to myself, he had to get more than those two assaults. And the fact they were 2 felonies, I just think to myself, that's a little extreme. But 8 years, though, is way too much for a guy like a respected man like Willie McGinnis is. And McGinnis is respected, whether with this, despite his past over the years getting in trouble and stuff like that, he's still a respected analyst. He's a 3-time Super Bowl champion. The guy's a legend in the football in the world of football as far as defense goes for the Patriots, and really his career being all with the New England Patriots since '94 to I believe 2008. So for him to get 8 years, I just thought that was insane. Because if he's going to get 8 years for this, then Kamara's going to get jail time at this point, whether he pleaded not guilty or not. And I know McGinnis turned himself in, basically just revealing his guilt in that situation. The difference is Kamara didn't do that. In fact, you could argue right now the other guy might get in trouble just for doing that. I don't remember the other. I keep forgetting the other guy's name, so I'm gonna just call him John Doe because I'm drawing a blank right now on the other guy's name. Although either way, he's not much of a big star in the NFL anyway, so it doesn't make much of a difference. So to me, he's a John Doe of the NFL right now at this point for not remembering his name. But he was a special teamer for the Kansas City Chiefs at one point. I believe he was on the special teams for a defensive back position, I think. I don't even know. He was not a field goal returner or a kick returner or a punt returner by any means. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. It is what it is. But, and at this point, I think he actually got off the hook with this situation. I think they actually found him not really part of the scene at that point. I think he was assaulted. I think, in fact, the more I even think about it, the guy may have actually said it was more on Alvin Kamara anyway. So Alvin Kamara might be screwed. As far as him getting, on an NFL team now at this point, it's hard. I mean, if they're not gonna let Colin Kaepernick go back, and I'm not trying to compare the situation of Colin Kaepernick's behavior in comparison to what Alvin Kamara did in a nightclub, but if they're not gonna let Colin Kaepernick back in, but let Michael Vick come back in for animal cruelty, then Alvin Kamara is kind of screwed. I'm saying this right now, and maybe the NFL is just too dumb and stupid to look at this and they may overlook his crime. Maybe, who knows? They overlooked Willie McGinnis's pass. He was able to stay with the New England Patriots despite all that. So, who knows? He'll be arraigned. I'll be surprised right now if this guy doesn't get. I'll be surprised right now if this guy doesn't get anything at this point. Because I have a funny feeling he's going to get prison time. I would not be surprised if it was 3 years at this point. And it'd be a hell of a story if he would have come back in and given a second chance and say, hey, I made a mistake. I was wrong for this, blah, blah, blah. I should have pleaded guilty for this. Maybe I would have gotten a lesser charge. Maybe he was going to pull a Brittany Griner. Maybe he should have done that. Instead, the reality of it is he didn't do it. It is what it is. Jalen Ramsey has been on trade rumors at this point. Some rumors have been people have been speculating it's been Dallas. Some people have been saying it's Philadelphia. I said retirement in my past. I'm taking back my retirement thought process on this whole thing. So I want to apologize right out of the gate for that one for Jalen Ramsey. Again, I'm sorry. Look, he had a rough year. I thought he was all washed up to begin with. Right now, he was really slow at this point at his age. So I said retirement just because no one wanted to put up with a guy's contract for 2 more years of a contract that he got from LA to give to somebody else's, at this point. I don't think anyone's wanted to do it. I'm just saying. Ramsey, since he's been with the LA Rams, has been slow. He's not the same fast defensive player I would truly believe. Even though he had a pretty decent year, I mean, I would say below decent. I'd say below average year. I'd say that he was in that ballpark of like not doing much for the team, allowing deep passes down the field against weak quarterbacks. I mean, I'm just spitballing here at this point. But I will say this, though, about where Ramsey might end up going, which I think Ramsey is going to end up going to the Philadelphia Eagles. If I had to say one thing right now, why he would get traded there at this point, because I was going to say the Carolina Panthers, maybe he'd partner up with Tom Brady and stuff like that if he decided to come out of retirement. But that just took away the whole idea of Brady coming out of retirement because I think Brady's done with football. So he's not going to want to play with a backup useless quarterback and Sam Darnold, or in this case right now, a team that's going to draft one. Maybe they would get Lamar Jackson, maybe. But then I thought Philadelphia's got a team now that's ready to win now. They have Darius Slade Jr. They have, a great front four at this point, which if they can retain in free agency, if it's possible. I think that if they retain most of the players they have on there now and have a good core in there on their front seven, their front four, pass rush, especially, with Robert Quinn and Fletcher Cox and, Brandon Graham, if they can retain those guys, I think they would be able to persuade Ramsey to come to Philadelphia. I think that's more going to happen now. Now, you could say Dallas probably. I mean, I don't know if that's realistic. But then I think to myself, Dallas at this point with Travion Diggs, the problem with Travion Diggs is that he's just as bad as Ramsey in this in covering the deep ball down the field. He's one guy that had one magical year with 7 interceptions, and then the next year didn't do crap. So to me, Diggs is still a good defensive back. I don't think he's the elite yet at this point. He's getting close, but I don't think he's there just yet as far as elite play goes. Although he had one great year. If he has 3 or 4 more of those years, I'd say maybe, but I'm just playing up in the air at this point. And speaking of Tom Brady, I'm going to get more into Tom Brady stuff in just right about now. So John Lynch, the other day, and I wanted to get into this real quickly because I wanted to bring this up at this point. If I can just pull my Instagram, revealed actually to what he had to say to the greatest of all time in Tom Brady in a text message form, because there was a lot of rumors going around saying that he's been persuaded by the Buccaneers at this point. He's been persuaded by the San Francisco 49ers. There was a report about this stuff, and I first heard it in my head, which I don't think I even saved it. Actually thought I saved it on here. I guess I didn't. That's kind of disappointing. But I think I would be able to pull it up now at this point anyway. If I could just, is that it right here? It's according to our 49ers at this point. I think I can have the, if I do have the text change on here, do I not have the text exchange on this file? I guess I don't. I guess I do not. Huh. It's weird. I really thought I was able to pull it out on here. That kind of was the whole point of me talking about this stuff right now. But I guess he said, congrats on a great career. Good luck in your future and stuff. You know, because I think at this point they were reaching out to Tom Brady before he announced his retirement. But this again just leads to my point right now that I have a funny feeling that Brock Purdy is going to be not ready by training camp, and Trey Lance will be the starting quarterback at this point. If they can't get Tom Brady, if they were thinking about getting Tom Brady at this point and he decided just to, you know, retire right there and then, and I guess I think this text happened, I think, before the week of the Super Bowl, which is why it's a big story now at this point, big speculation. Um, I think Lynch is respecting their decision at this point of letting Tom Brady just take it easy and just stay retired. A lot of people are thinking of that at this point. I think honestly, for Tom Brady, it was time. It was time for Tom Brady to retire. It was time for Tom Brady just to hang it up at this point. You've been to 10 Super Bowls. You've won 7 of them. Right? You're on pace right now to go on to Fox next year. Whether Greg Olsen likes it or not, that's just a reality. And John Lynch at this point understood. He understood at this point, and so did the ownership, that Brady was ready to go. Like, he was not going to come back and play for the 49ers. As much as that was a bucket list for him, maybe that would be the ultimate regret at this point, that he spent too long in New England. Maybe he would have wanted to go to San Francisco. And maybe he went to the wrong team in 2020. Maybe he should have gone to Sanford instead. I mean, the reality of it was that Garoppolo's contract screwed that whole thing up. If Garoppolo was never signed as quickly as he was, and here's the thing, when trading up for this guy in the first place and giving him that contract was a dumb mistake by the 49ers to begin with. You could have given him a 3-year deal in 2018. It would have barred or a 2-year contract at that point, cut that down from 3 to 2 to not even give him the extra one after the injury he suffered in 2018. You could have cut these years out. If you're the San Francisco 49ers, why you didn't, I have no idea. You knew this guy was injury prone right after you traded for him anyway. And at that point, you could have gotten the greatest quarterback of all time to help you win a Super Bowl. And that's the reality. You know, also the 49ers could have gotten to this point. Joey Bosa. The Bosa brothers could have been together in San Francisco. And Bosa said it would be impossible for us to be stopped with us two on the football field. That's not quote unquote what he said, but that's basically how he announced it at that point. Now, you would have gotten the Bosa brothers and Tom Brady to play on your team in 2020. That's what you would have done. And the 49ers would have repeated the last 2 Super Bowls. Let's be realistic here. And now at this point, they might be in trouble right now with Trey Lance at quarterback. Are they going to be a playoff team next year? I don't know. Seattle might be. They're trying to convince Bobby Wagner to come back to Seattle at this point after his falling out with the Seahawks. I'm going to put it to you this way. Richard Sherman would rather stay retired than go on unretire and go play for Pete Carroll one more time. Russell Wilson has already wanted his coach to get fired. Cam Chancellor retired so early just to get out of Seattle at this point because it was killing him to be on this football team. I mean, and the reality of it is that they retired because of the Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll drama. Wagner just wanted out of there just because he felt disrespected by the general manager. Separate from Pete Carroll, separate from Russell Wilson. I mean, it's what it is, you know. I don't think Wagner's going to come back. I don't. I'd be stunned if Wagner decided to go back to Seattle. I just don't think that's going to happen. That I don't believe at all. NFL Combine happened. Anthony Richardson broke a record. He had a vertical jump of 40.5, the most ever in a quarterback combine and combine history. Bryce Freeland from an offensive lineman from BYU did a vertical jump of 37.5. So think about this one for a minute. An offensive lineman and a quarterback that nobody had thought of did great in the combine. You know, also did great this weekend. Will Levis, strong throw, great thrower, strong arm, according to some people. C.J. Stroud with a lot of good accuracy, and Anthony Richardson with his verticalness and his balance, and his quarterback play was pretty good. So, 3 great quarterbacks that are heading the NFL draft is Richardson, Levis, and Stroud. Stroud went on a tire that he didn't want to play for Chicago, but his preferences are either the Raiders, Seahawks, Colts, Falcons, Detroit Lions. Those are Stroud's possible areas that he would love to play in at this point. And I got to say this right now about C.J. Stroud. Stroud's got a better shot right now of playing with the Dallas Cowboys. I think he does. I didn't see the Dallas Cowboys on the list, I don't believe, that were on the list for according to CBS Sports. I will say this, though. If he does not end up in Dallas, Stroud should end up in Detroit anyway. Stroud realistically would be a better fit for the Detroit Lions and what they're trying to do, what they're trying to sell on you. And at this point, they're probably going to end up winning a lot of games next year with a different quarterback anyway. Jared Goff's only going to give at least 8 or 9 wins a season. That's it. They're going to need another quarterback at this point. That's the reality. That's the reality. I mean, I'm just being realistic at this point. That is the reality right now at this point for C.J. Stroud. He is better off in Detroit. Anthony Richardson is taking Lamar Jackson's place. I have that funny feeling right now. I think Lamar Jackson, and the more I think about this now with Lamar Jackson, because I think Daniel Jones at this point is going to stay in New York because he agreed to take a franchise tag today. That was also in the news today, according to New York Giants, which I actually put on their page on my story that he'd be getting a franchise tag, but that wouldn't be official until March 15th. But they are going to franchise tag their quarterback, the Giants. Lamar Jackson's going to end up as a Carolina Panther. I don't see how that doesn't happen. Because the more I think about it now with the whole Alvin Kamara situation, and really they have no running back at this point, Lamar Jackson is going to want to just be a pure thrower anyway, and not much of a running quarterback. Like Deebo Samuel wants to be like just a wide receiver and not a running back. Look what happened to him. He was banged up and injured, not 100%. But I can tell you this right now with Lamar Jackson, Deebo, despite this contract, is going to want out of this at this point because there's nothing in his contract that said he has no trade clause. So Deebo may end up in Carolina because there's a rumor going around last year that Deebo wanted to be a Carolina Panther. There was a Carolina Panther thing on his social media page. Now you got Lamar Jackson at this point, who may end up in Carolina with Deebo Samuel. That still should happen. I mean, this may change everything. Lamar Jackson is not going to be an Atlanta Falcon. I just don't see it. Unless you get Deebo Samuel and Cordell Patterson together in there, and you keep Cordell Patterson at running back at this point and make Deebo just a wide receiver and nothing else, I just can't imagine. I mean, it would either be Lamar Jackson going to Atlanta with that combination or Lamar Jackson going to Carolina with Deebo Samuel. I'm just being realistic here. It's just a fact at this point. And with the way Daniel Jones was being praised right now in New York right now at this point, he may get a long-term deal despite the fact of a franchise tag being offered at this point. Maybe the Giants are willing to give him the contract. We haven't heard one peep about whether or not Saquon Barkley is going to stay in New York. The fact that they thought about franchise tagging Daniel Jones first ahead of Saquon Barkley, even though Saquon Barkley had a much better year, I believe, than Daniel Jones. And thanks to Saquon Barkley's health and him being the best player he was in the last 4.5 years, if it wasn't for that, Daniel Jones would be nothing right now at this point. So Saquon Barkley doesn't owe the Giants anything. The Giants owe him more than the Giants owe Daniel Jones. That's it. That's a simple fact at this point. And that's why I believe Lamar Jackson's chances right now of getting with the Giants or anyone else at this point is slim to none. Carolina is the only option at this point because Anthony Richardson is going to end up going to the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are going to trade up at this point to trade up with Carolina to give Lamar Jackson to Carolina, to give Baltimore Anthony Richardson, and then the Ravens are going to trade up and get DeAndre Hopkins. Because you got to give the guy something. You can't give him nothing besides a banged up wide receiving core. I'm just stating facts at this point. That's all I'm saying. Now we get into the college basketball news that happened all day yesterday, which was my day yesterday at PC yesterday. Because the plan was yesterday for me was supposed to be me going to the PC game and coming right back here into the podcast late and covering all the games from last night. Could not make it home last night. And in fact, at one point, my friend's car wouldn't even start. So I was basically stranded in the right outside the Schneider Arena at Providence, Rhode Island, PC University to be exact, after what happened yesterday. So that was that. But I'll give you a quick score quickly on the Hoosiers and the Michigan Wolverines. That went to overtime. Indiana is officially your winners. They got a 75-73 win in overtime. And Bloomington, Indiana. Get a box score quickly right now. Indiana could not cover the spread, so Michigan won the spread. But let's see. Let's see. What is this? Jackson. I believe this is Jackson's. I don't even know the guy's last name. T. Jackson with last name with a D. Oh, Tracy Jackson Davis, I believe his name is. Yes, that's right. Okay. Got the lead points today for Michigan. He was 27 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. Dickinson had 24 points, 14 rebounds, 1 assist. He is the center for the team. Thompson had 16 points for Indiana. Hood Schneider had 13 points. Kopp had 5. Coway had 4 points. Bates and Renuo had 10 points combined off the bench. McDaniel had 10 points. Howard had 16 points, 19 points for Buffkin. 2 points for Reed Jr., and that was really about it for the bench point at this point. There was nothing else besides that. But yeah, Indiana was up by 2 points at one point heading into halftime. Michigan was roaring back in the second half of this game, was back and forth. But Indiana was able to close it out, get the overtime win at home against Michigan Wolverines in a 75-73 victory over that team. So that was a pretty good game yesterday, or I should say today, for Indiana. I'm going to try to get some more updates right now if I can on the other games right now. If I can just pull those up really quickly. Let's see. Houston got the beating Memphis today, 67-65. 21st ranked Maryland going down to Penn State. They've now lost to Ohio State and Penn State. They lose to Penn State today, 65-64. 5th ranked Purdue beat Illinois 76-71. Drake beating Bradley today in an upset today in their little tournament today, 2-1. Their final in their conference play. I guess it's not going to show me the other game. Or open up another tab instead. I don't know why I did that. Not sure what's going on with this thing at all. This computer today has just been slow at this point. This is not a strong Wi-Fi signal by any means, by the way, just FYI. And I hope to God I'm not losing my YouTube feed at this point, because I would be really disappointed if I did. Pages are not working as great as I wanted them to work at this point. Not really much of the I'm going to try to get it on my phone here, because this might be the only better option I have at this point. Sad enough that I actually got to pull this up on my phone. Again, NBA stuff in just a second. Okay, now my phone. See, now my phone's having issues now. Now my phone's having issues. Okay. No, that's not what I wanted. Let's get into Saturday scores. I'm only going to give the top 25 at this point for the NCAA AP poll here, so that's what I will do. I'll cover mostly that. Bunch of upsets yesterday, though. Just fair warning on that one right now. Texas beating Kansas yesterday. I'll start off with that matchup. 9th-ranked Texas beating 3rd-ranked Kansas 75-59. This was just a complete biggest ass whooping surprise in this game. I thought Kansas was going to go in there and prove themselves that they're still the best team in the Big 12, and Texas said not today, and they just completely dominated this game from top to bottom here. I'm going to go play-by-play with this right now. I'm going to fast forward actually to the second half of this. So Dylan DeSuze made a layup at this point, made it a 10-point lead. Midway later on in this game right now, Dylan DeSuze again, one more time, made another layup, made it 36-24. Also got some technical fouls, though, so the shoe got a free throw, and there was a double technical. So Jalen Wilson missed a 3-point shot. Hunter was fouled. Then it became 39-24 at that point. And this game was just a runaway at this point. Texas just didn't give this team much of a chance. Sir Jerry Rice there with a layup, made it 46-34. Later on, Christian Bishop made a layup as his own right now, made it 50-41. And this was really the thing that put this game away. Sir Jabari Rice makes a jumper. It was an assist by Marcus Carr. made 63-50. This ended up being a 75-59 win over the Kansas Jayhawks, over the defending champion Kansas Jayhawks, may I add. Oklahoma beat TCU 74-60. That was also the upset. 12th ranked Tennessee going down to Auburn yesterday, losing to Bruce Pearl's Tigers 79-70. West Virginia beat 11th ranked Kansas State 89-81. Iowa State beat Baylor yesterday 73-58. Texas A&M, 24th ranked Texas A&M beat number 2 Alabama 67-61. 18th ranked Miami or 16th ranked Miami survived 25th ranked Pittsburgh 78-76. Kentucky beat Arkansas 88-79. PC. Let me just get this out of the way here with PC. Let me just piece this and just get this out of the way. PC yesterday completely did not show up in their game yesterday in a horrible, disappointing effort, which I don't even know why I even went to this game. I cannot be honest. This was an embarrassing game. Back-to-back home losses, by the way. Back-to-back home losses. I just meant to bring this up. Every year PC has a final game at the end of the year. They always seem to mess it up at the end of the season at that point. Undefeated at home, didn't lose any games. This past Wednesday, lost to Xavier by 5. Yesterday, lost to Seton Hall at home. Embarrassing loss, by the way. It was 44-25 at the half. PC trying to make an effort for it. This game was just a runaway at this point. I'd rather not get into all the details of this game. This game was a nightmare, though, to get through. PC yesterday shot 17%. Worst all season for 3. They were 4 for 23 in the game. They shot 40% overall in the game, going 23 for 57. Crosswell was in there for 35 minutes. He had 13 points. Carter led for 14 points yesterday. Bynum had 12 points yesterday. And Noah Locke, who was like the best three-point shooter on the team, went 0 for 6 in the game, 1 for 9 overall, had 2 points. If that is the effort you're going to show in the NCAA tournament, you're going to get the first round. Which now at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. I mean, if this is the effort you're going to show in your final home game of the year, which, by the way, going into it before this past Wednesday, where you lost to Xavier. Before all that, you were undefeated at home. No one could stop you. You were dominant. You were passionate. You had comebacks. You had a huge game against Creighton, probably one of the biggest games of the year. That loss to UConn sent them backwards a little bit too. But this was a season where you didn't have to worry about Villanova. You pretty much had the Big East in command. And for whatever reason, you lose to Xavier in the worst way possible in a game where you were down by 25 and you actually took the lead at one point and you still blew the game. So then this game here with no effort, I mean, Seton Hall had no problem with shooting threes. They were 10 for 18 overall. They were 55.6%. And overall, Seton Hall was 62.5% in the game. This was a embarrassing home loss. Just from top to bottom, they were just knocking down threes left and right. I mean, this game was no contest. Dre Davis yesterday had 24 points yesterday. He was on the money yesterday with his play. It was actually beautiful watching him play. 4 for 11 overall though in the paint though. He was 3 for 7 for 3. Oduke was 7 for 10, 1 for 1 for 3. Nudufo had 15 points. He was 5 for 8 in the game. The paint in that team going into the paint and just annihilating Providence the way they did was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. There was no effort to be shown in that game whatsoever. And they actually got to a point where Dre Davis had 24 points off the bench. 9 for 10, 4 for 4, best player on the court yesterday by leaps and bounds. And I left this, and I was at this game and I left early. That's how disgusted I was at the PC at that point. Absolutely disgusted. And I had this team as possibly in the final four. Now at this point, they go from NCAA national championship contenders to a team that might be eliminating the first round of these 2 games that they played this past week. Way to go. Way to go, guys. Way to blow a game like that. Marquette beat St. John's in a 96-94 victory. They barely survived St. John's. Xavier beat Butler 78-66. UConn beat Villanova 71-59. UCLA, 4th-ranked UCLA, surviving 8th-ranked Arizona 82-73. San Diego State beat Wyoming 67-50. I actually thought for sure Arizona was going to pull off the upset there, but it's not going to happen. But yeah, UConn 14th ranked. They survived their game yesterday. UConn finishes the season at 25-7. By the way, just FYI, are they 24-7? Yeah, they're 24-7. Okay, so that's that. But as far as today goes right now, there's no other college basketball games to be on. Duke got the win last night. They swept North Carolina last night in a huge way. They actually had a huge win today in the ACC in general. They had a 62-57 win in North Carolina. Notre Dame had their coach had their final game yesterday. Unfortunately, their team finishes 11-20 with a 87-64 loss at Clemson. Cormac Ryan yesterday led with 19 points for Notre Dame. This was pretty embarrassing as far as all that stuff goes. As far as that game went yesterday for Notre Dame, I thought that was embarrassing. Louisville had an embarrassing loss yesterday, so their 75-60 loss to Virginia. They finished the season 4-27. Ouch. That's all I got to say about that game. Ouch. That was embarrassing. So the ACC tournament starts on Tuesday, so I will be covering that on the podcast. I might actually even go live with this, honestly, for the first half of the ACC. I will cover this week coming out. This is what the schedule will look like this week. So I will do a show again Tuesday, obviously, which I normally do on Tuesdays. I will cover Monday's stuff, so I won't cover anything that's done on Sunday, obviously. I will get the Celtics report here for all you people. I actually will get the NBA scores right now as well, but I will cover the ACC tournament games, cover the Big East tournament, cover all that, because the ACC, I believe, is going to be in North Carolina anyway, somewhere in Greensboro, probably. Madison Square Garden will be, of course, where the Big East tournament is. And for college hockey, for Boston University and Providence, their tournament starts pretty damn soon. They are going to be in the TD Garden. So that was already announced today as well. But let me give you, but that's basically what's going to happen this week. I'll cover all the college basketball tournament stuff, all the previews for that on Tuesday. Friday, I will cover Wednesday, Thursday. I'll cover the games as well for Tuesday when I go live here on Tuesday night. But the rest of the week will be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday coverage of the games and stuff like that. I'll cover all that stuff for the podcast Friday. If there's any stories, I'll report on it. You know that they're going to be, of course, with me. I'll have a lot of stories to get into here. But that's really about it. For Saturday's edition for basketballs today, Raptors beat the Wizards last night, 116-109. Cavs beat the Pistons, 114-90. Rockets beat the Spurs, 122-110. Timberwolves beat the Kings, 138-134. Heat beat the Hawks, 117-109. And the 76ers were going to Milwaukee last night with a 133-130 win over the best Milwaukee Bucks right now. They're 45-18. Embiid last night and James Harden were unstoppable. Giannis had 34 points. Harden had 38 last night. Probably his best game of the season last night for James Harden. Went 11 for 26, 5 for 9 for 3, had 9 rebounds, had 10 assists last night. Embiid, 31 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds. This man played like a small forward last night. And Harden played like a shooting guard. This was probably the first game last night where I would say last night Embiid played more like a small forward in the game than he played as a center. And Embiid, I mean, you can argue right now with his size. I mean, he's 7 foot. This 7 foot would play like a small forward last night. I'm just gonna put it out there for you. To go 3 for 5 from 3, and his shooting form last night, it was amazing. Giannis last night once again carried a team. Brook Lopez also carried a team as well. He had 26 points along with True Holiday. Holiday was 5 for 8 from 3. Lopez was 3 for 5 from 3. Giannis had 13 rebounds, but he was over 3 for 3 points. He was actually 9 for 21 in the game. Did not have his best night shooting either. Jay Crowder was just completely useless. He's had 13 minutes of in there, but only 2 points. Useless player. Not that great. But anyway, that was the games that were on last night. As far as the Heat goes, leading scorer last night was Blue Bay Abeyo with 30 points. Squidward Bay had 22 points for the Hawks. Timberwolves and Kings last night. T-Wolves got the win. Anthony Edwards led with 27 points last night. Kevin Huerter had 29 for the Kings. For the Rockets last night, well, the NBA's worst team in basketball ended their 11-game losing streak. Thanks to Tyree Essen with 20 points last night. Garland for the Cavaliers, he led last night at 21 points in their 25-point win over the Pistons. And Fred VanVleet, who was basically carrying his team by himself along with Siakam, did not get the leading points last night, but Gary Trent Jr. did with 26 points last night. The Raptors are now 32 and 33. Sunday scores for you. This was a wild game today right now between the Suns and Mavericks. That was your first game today. The Phoenix Suns beat the Dallas Mavericks 130-126. Kevin Durant led the team in 37 points. Devin Booker had 36. Luke Doncic had 34. Kyrie Irving had 30 points tonight. This was a game where Luka had a chance to win it. He blew the game, missed a game-winning layup with about 3.5 seconds to go in the game. It was written all over Luka's face, and at one point, Devin Booker was getting ready to fight Luka Doncic last night just because he was trash talking later on in the game. No LeBron, no problem as the Lakers beat the Golden State Warriors 113-105. Anthony Davis had 39 points today. Steph Curry had 27 points, was 8 for 20 in the game. This game overall, I didn't really get a chance to watch it fully right now because I was at a birthday party. So, and again, to my little cousin Lila, she had her birthday this week. She's now 13 years old. Happy birthday. This was a game where the Lakers really didn't need LeBron here. And I think at this point, if Anthony Davis keeps playing like this, I don't think LeBron James is going to really need him this team going forward. I'm just being realistic here. I think Anthony Davis is trying to prove a point by saying LeBron James and his accolades and trying to be the next Kobe Bryant is holding this Laker team back from winning. I mean, if Anthony Davis could take the New Orleans Pelicans from obscurity to becoming winners here, sort of, in a very tough Western Conference, but here in this case, with the Lakers, he has no problem doing it by himself. He should have no problem doing this going forward. This is the attitude that I was looking for Anthony Davis for a long time. And for that guy to come out there today and score 39 points, I mean, it's not easy to do. It really isn't. Brooklyn Nets are now currently beating the Charlotte Hornets 84-49 right now. There's about 3 minutes to go in the third. Charlotte's not in a good day today. No LaMelo Ball either, so it doesn't really help things either. But so far in this third quarter, they've outscored this team 14-8. And it's not looking any bit better going forward for them. They are just getting embarrassed. Pacers beat the Bulls 125-122 in Chicago. Pacers right now leading scorer today was Hale Harburton. Harburton had 29 points. Zach LaVine had 42 for the Bulls, but still came up short. Blazers are up by 3 right now. They're beating the Magic 83-80. Thunder are beating the Jazz 35-20. And the Spurs Rockets are going at it again one more time, this time in Houston. And they're up by 10 right now in the second quarter, 41-31. XFL today, we had some games on today. Defenders beat the Battlehawks today 34-28. Renegades beat the Guardians today 10-9. That was today's games to score. Brahmas and Roughnecks come on later on tonight. Sea Dragons beat the Vipers 30-26. That was your only game on for Saturday. Week 4 starts on next Saturday right now with Roughnecks at the Guardians. Guardians now 0-3. Roughnecks are 2-0. I don't believe there's ever been a winless team in the Guardians. So I kind of hope that actually happens this year with the Guardians right now, and they become the team that goes 0-10 this year. Sea Dragons beat the Sea Dragons are playing the Bahamas next week. Renegades are playing the Battlehawks. That should be an interesting game. 0-3 Vipers versus the 3-0 Defenders. Defenders might go perfect this year. I actually thought for sure it'd be Battlehawks right now with AJ McCarron, but now the more I look at the Defenders, they're more of an exciting team at this point. If this team was not part of the XFL, this would not be watchable. Yes, the attendance is terrible in most of these games, but if you're watching these games at home and you're getting good football out of it, to me, the rules are more. The games are watchable, guys. I don't see what the problem with it is. I really don't. It's not a boring football game. It's not like the NCAA football when you have a first down, they stop the clock. No, they keep it going. They keep it going. And the referees made the game clear. So I don't know what you people want. Are you sick of football at this point? Do you want to break from football? Is that why you're not watching it? Watch it, guys. It's a good football league. And if you and really, who cares about learning these guys' names? I don't care. There's a lot of noble coaches in there. There's Greg Williams. There's Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips, who went on a crusade saying the NFL's ageist, and they're, I guess, considering that they fire old head coaches, they want newer bumps, I guess. But let's be honest, they've lost touch of the game and stuff like this. At least with this, there's no high expectations. See, that's the thing with the NFL at this point. If you're getting too old, you're not delivering the expectations that you want to have for these owners, you're going to get fired. It's just plain simple. But yeah, that's the XFL. NHL was on yesterday. The Bruins got their win yesterday and a 4-2 win over the Rangers yesterday. Bruins with Orlov and Dimitris right now getting from the trade deadline yesterday. They made a dominant presence yesterday in the defensive side of the puck. Patrick Kane did not look good yesterday. Looked terrible yesterday in his game. Yolich had 24 saves yesterday. Goals were by Nosek and Coyle yesterday. As well as Pastrnak and Bergeron yesterday getting the goal yesterday. Pastrnak has got 44 goals on the season right now. Not that far behind from one Mr. Connor McDavid right now, who's fighting for MVP. You can argue right now there's a 3 MVP race. It's going to Pastrnak, Connor McDavid, and Jonas Allmark at this point. So that's a fact right now going to that one. Stars beat the Avalanche 7-3 yesterday. Panthers beat the Penguins 4-1. Canucks beat the Maple Leafs 4-1 yesterday. Jets beat the Oilers 7-5. Lightning lost to the Buffalo Sabres yesterday 5-3, and also lost today to the Hurricanes 6-0. I'll get more of that in just a second. Capitals beat the Sharks last night 8-3. Senators beat the Blue Jackets 5-2. Predators beat the Blackhawks 3-1. Wild shut out the Calgary Flames 3-0. Kings beat the St. Louis Blues 4-2. Now, today, you got the Golden Knights beating the Canadiens 3-0. They just ended their second period. Flyers beat the Red Wings 2-1. Devils beat the Coyotes 2-1. And the Hurricanes today had a butt whooping today. Beat Tampa Bay 6-0. 5-game losing streak for Tampa Bay, the most they've had since 2014. They had the least amount of shots scored in the first 2 periods, which is 4. That's the lowest that's been all season. Probably the lowest, again, in over 10 years. Trevanian had 3 goals. 3 goals. Had a hat trick today. Gotsbury had a goal today with 2 assists. Kotami had 4 assists today with 1 goal as well. This was a butt-whooping 6-0 victory today over the Tampa Bay Lightning. 6-0. Bruins' next game is not going to be until Tuesday, which is perfect for me. I will probably go actually, no, they're not even playing on Tuesday either. Huh? Are they not playing this Tuesday? Am I just missing a game here at this point? What is the next Bruins game? Thursday night will be at home against the Oilers. It will be Connor McDavid versus Linus Ullmark, hopefully. Hopefully we get that. Hopefully it's not swimming again in a back-to-back scenario. They play Thursday night. They play again next Saturday at home against the Red Wings. And then right after that, they play the Red Wings in a doubles, and basically from one state to another, from Boston to Detroit. So that's the next time the Bruins play hockey. Currently, right now, the Knicks are playing the Celtics right about now. They just started their tip-off along with the Bucks and the Washington Wizards. Started their tip-off right now. So there you go. That is your hockey news. I may actually have a new prediction right now at this point now going forward for who will be in the Stanley Cup this year for the Bruins this year. And it's kind of crazy to think about this point, but I think now it's like I'm looking at the Eastern Conference Stanley Cup final right now. I was going to go with the Rangers and the Bruins, but Patrick Kane's kind of showing his age. And the Rangers are kind of showing, their energy starting to dimmer down a little bit. So I may stick with the Rangers and Bruins Stanley Cup final pick for Eastern Conference wise. But I did go with Golden Knights, possibly with a Bruins revenge type of feel right now. I kind of thought it was heading in that direction. I actually thought it would be Colorado Avalanche versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. Then I changed it to Avalanche Bruins, and I changed it to Bruins and Golden Knights. But the more I think about it now, and the more it's heading in this direction, I'd rather see the Dallas Stars with Tyler Seguin back against this Bruin team. I want to see Seguin versus Linus Ullmark in the Stanley Cup final. I want to see Pastrnak, who replaced Tyler Seguin, to go in this final here. This is a must Stanley Cup final prediction right now. It's stick in stone. It's edged in stone. It's not being changed. I'm marking it down right now. Stars, Bruins, Stanley Cup final prediction for 2023. And Linus Yomark, and then this is just my prediction, not only will win the league MVP this year for hockey this year, but I am calling it right now, and I'm going to seal it right now with this right here. Linus Yomark will be the MVP in the NHL Stanley Cup final. Never been done before. I believe that they had a league guy win it and an MVP guy get it in the same season here. But if Patrick Mahomes can pull it off right now, league MVP and Super Bowl MVP, then I think Linus Yomark will get a league MVP and a Stanley Cup final MVP trophy. President's Cup trophy as well. There you go. Bars. Boom. Anyway. So that's that. I'm going with that report. I think it sounds right. It's the right approach. It's the right way of doing things here, on this podcast. So that's that. Robert Williams, by the way, just a report just came out just now. This is just in as the game just tipped up right now. Missoula went on record to say today, quote, "We're not going to rush back Robert Williams with a hamstring injury. He's going to miss the next 10 days." The Jets are currently trying to get Derek Carr. They're leaning towards more Derek Carr. They have now eliminated themselves from getting Aaron Rodgers. So with the Las Vegas Raiders. So the Packers want nothing to do with him. The Raiders want nothing to do with him. The Jets want nothing to do with him. The Titans are out. Aaron Rodgers is going to retire, folks. I'm telling you this right now. This guy's going to have no choice but to call it quits in 2023. That's that. Let's take a look. We got some more stuff right now. We got some more unrelated sports stuff right now. Shark Tank investor Kevin O'Leary says a new generation of employee has never worked in his office before and is totally transforming management. Quote, you say to somebody, look, you got to get this done by next Friday at noon. You don't really care when they do it, said O'Leary. That was what he had said here in the thing. Remote workers are not coming back to the office, said Kevin O'Leary, and some of the younger ones have never worked in one at all. According to investor and Shark Tank star, that changes how companies and workers are managed. Over the last 3 years, there are a new generation of worker, particularly in the financial service and in technology or in engineering, that has no intentions of working in an office. And told CNN this on Friday. Quote, they never will. People keep saying, oh, they're gonna all come back. They're not. They are not. According to O'Leary, there's a 44% of the employees across his venture portfolio work remotely, and they ain't coming to the office, period. That's it. That's just the way it is. That's the way it's going to be, I should say, post quote. So kind of shocking. So that's been answered at this point. 42 British students went on a ski trip to the U.S. On the last day of the trip, they realized that their hotel had shredded 41 of their passports. Very interesting story here. According to the Insider, I actually was shocked. I'm actually shocked by this story, actually. Like, if you got 42 British students at this point, but you're refusing them to go back to their own country, that's kind of extreme right there for their passports to be shredded. You know how much of a process that is to go back into Britain at this point? How much money they're going to want to go for you to leave this country, to go back to your own country? That's a lot of money these kids can't afford. Tim Norman sentenced to life in prison, star of Sweetie Pie. This is according to Entertainment Tonight. Norman sentenced to life in federal prison. This is what Assistant U.S. Attorney Angie Dennis had said here. Quote, that the restaurant planned the execution of his nephew and carried it out when he thought no one was looking. So he executed his own nephew. And he's now been sentenced to life in prison. That's going to suck. Let's take a look here. A woman goes on a walk and makes a surprising discovery in her neighbor's yard. It's very simple here story right now. A woman in Southern California decided to go for a walk around her neighborhood one afternoon. She knew to expect the typical sound of yard work and kids playing, but just a few minutes into her, an unusual noise caught her by surprise. She heard what seemed to be a chorus of yelps coming from her neighbor's yard and could tell that something was off, so she decided to investigate further. She followed the sound. Dog rescuer and founder of Logan's Legacy told the dodo then she said found puppies. Yes, found puppies. The woman walked up to her neighbors and discovered a family of puppies nestled in a raised flower bed. The woman had no idea how the puppies ended up in the flower bed since it stood high above their reach, but she knew she had to help get them down. Leaning in a closer look, she realized the puppies weren't alone. There was a dirty blanket in there, which the puppies laid on top of, Hall said, and then there was Mama. So she ran into the mama dog at this point. So there was kind of, see, I love hearing these stories about this stuff like this. I had to look this down. I'm sorry. I don't like looking down my phone. It's not really good. Even my friends been telling me not to do that realistically here. But I will say this now at this point. When you see a bunch of dogs like that and their mom and stuff like that right now, you got to bring all of them in there. See, I'd be that one guy that would do that too. So I love hearing stories like this stuff because you don't really hear stories about that often. But yeah, that is what she found in her walk home the other day. Good for her. I don't know if she ever took him home. There was never really a report on this. Wealthy Wichita, Kansas woman, 78, gets prison sentence for a multi-million-dollar embezzlement scheme. This is according to Amy Renee Lecker in the Wichita Eagle Globe, or Wichita Eagle. A judge Thursday ordered a wealthy Wichita woman in her 70s to serve 4 years in federal prison and paid millions in restitution for over a decade long of embezzlement scheme that left two local physician-owned businesses that had employed her as a bookkeeper in financial ruin. Nancy Martin, once a respected community member, celebrated for her philanthropy. Wow, philanthropy. Sorry, it's my lisp in my teeth that I can't really pronounce that word. Or pronounce it properly. Was allowed to go home with her family after U.S. District Judge Eric Meldrum rejected a request from her lawyer for probation and imposed the prison term. But he told the 78-year-old she would have to surrender to a federal bureau of prisons faculty on a date to be determined later. It will be Martin's first incarceration in the case. She was not detained after the thefts were discovered in 2017 or after her 2021 indictment. That is kind of scary to think about at this point, that these people at this point are showing, these judges now are showing no mercy at this point in different states. I'm just being realistic right now. William McGinnis getting 8 years in prison. Alvin Kamara might just get 5 or 6 years. This woman's getting life in prison. So it's kind of scary to think about at this point that this woman is getting life in prison and she's practically close to 80. Let me put it to you like this. She's going to spend the next, I'd say, 5 or 6 years in prison. She's going to be dead in that jail cell within those 5 or 6 years. I'm sorry. And this is, it used to be a respected woman like that, but when you basically screw a system of local physician businesses and you screw them out of their financials, I have no sympathy for you. I'm sorry. I had to be deep and vulgar, and I had to be completely, like, if you want to call me a dirtbag for saying that at this point about an old lady at this point, the croak in that prison cell, she gets what she deserves. That's all I got to say. Elementary school private emails showed secret plans to defy parents' wishes to transitioning their children. I don't even. This is according to this. This was a Fox News report. A Colorado elementary school private emails show secret plans to defy parents' wishes on transitioning their child's gender. See, that's concerning right there. I'm going to stop it right there. I'm not going to read the whole article here. But I don't think it's a teacher's job or anybody else's job to tell their kid what to do with their private parts. I'm sorry. It's basically what you're doing at this point. You're basically turning somebody from one gender to another. If you were born a dude, you remain a dude. If you're born a chick, you remain to be a chick. To try to brainwash younger generations, especially kids that are in elementary school, which why these teachers are doing this, I have no idea. I don't know if they're making extra money by doing this. If this is more of a pay raise at this point? Are they getting an extra bonus in there so they won't get taxed later on in Colorado at this point to do this to these freaking kids? I mean, it's bad enough that in Tennessee at this point, they're basically just getting rid of drag shows at this point. Like they're banning them at this point. Like they're like little pop-up parties, which is stupid anyway. That's another thing that's stupid too. But to then basically tell these kids that, to basically defy the parents, which this is what I'm saying about private schools, folks. Take your kids to private schools. You're never gonna have any of these freaking problems. These private schools don't even believe in gender changing. Period. I haven't heard of a private school yet acting woke. In fact, if that comes to that fact that something that happens in private schools too, I'll homeschool my kids. I don't care. I'll teach them about sports. I'll get them to broadcasting that way if I have to. Worst comes to worst. I mean, this is stupid now. We're getting dumb with this. Getting really dumb real quick. Anyway, I think that's all I have to really say here. I think I covered enough here on this podcast to end it there with that. I don't normally go on other stuff like this, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't normally cover stuff that's not sports here, but I'm trying something a little bit different here. I'm not going to do this every time here. In fact, I may just do this stuff in the beginning and get a sports stuff in there later on. And depending on what's going on now. It's always depending on what's going on. I am signing off right now. You can listen to me. Hopefully, you listen to me tonight. You listen to me tomorrow. You listen to me whenever on my podcast. It doesn't matter what day you listen to me. All this stuff will be available to you. But I am signing off. You can follow me on social media, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. You know the drill. You know all of them. I'm going to sign off right now. This has been Joe Alvo here. I'm signing off. I will see you all on Tuesday. I am out. Bye.